Hello and welcome to the official Colts podcast. I'm Jeffrey Gorman, JJ Stankevitz from Colts.com, and of course, Larra Overton from Colts.com. We're talking football. We're coming back from Nashville, guys. Want to welcome everyone that's watching on YouTube and our Colts audio network. I know it was a trip for you both down to Nashville. I always like to check the vibe after a big victory. Hey, there's always a Saturday night party down in Nashville, but it's always sweeter when you go in there on Sunday. Take care of business. The Colts are 3-3. Larra, I'm going to start with you. This is a playoff team. If it ended today, the Colts are in the playoffs. I just wanted to get that out there right, early and quick, because we're always talking about what's the next step with this team. Well, with backup quarterbacks getting it done as well, the Colts are officially a playoff team right now.
Well, and that's without Jonathan Taylor for the last two games. I mean, you've already talked about the quarterback situation without DeForest Buckner, Tyquan Lewis, Juju Brents. You didn't have Kenny Moore in a couple of those situations. I mean, the significant people that you have missed and still found ways to win those three games, pretty significant.
I'm sure you saying that the Colts being a playoff team right now will definitely assuage the concerns some of our listeners and viewers have about this football team. That'll do it. That'll shut it down.
Hey, if it ends today, we're in good company.
The point is, look at the AFC right now. It's a mess. This conference. You've got your wild card teams would be Pittsburgh, the LA Chargers, and the Colts right now. But thank goodness you're not the Cleveland Browns.
Right. Oof.
Thank goodness you're not the Las Vegas Raiders or the New York Jets or the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. Teams that are in disarray. They don't know who their starting quarterback should be. The Jets just fired Robert Saleh. The Browns are a complete mess right now. And you look at some of these teams that feel like they're buried after 6 weeks, and the Colts are at 3-3. A lot has to be fixed with this football team. A lot has to get better, regardless of who is on the field. But the Colts have an opportunity to do that. That's what matters right now. They have an opportunity to, let's fix some of these issues. Let's maybe get DeForest Buckner back and start building on this. Let's build around an identity on this football team. And like Shane Steichen has said multiple times, you want to hit your stride in November and December. But the most important thing right now is you want to be able to make it count if you hit your stride in November and December, and the Colts are still in that position.
Well, you're talking about some issues there, 146 yards total rushing, giving up, which isn't as bad as some of the previous games this Colts defense has given up. But I'll tell you what, Larra, going down in a division rival on the road and getting a win with a backup quarterback is feeling great. And the skies look sunny as far as what's going on with Anthony Richardson. But I'm just saying, to get back to that even mark, be right head-to-head with Texas in the AFC South division like that, and to do it with a backup quarterback like that, we got to be feeling pretty pumped up. So I want to take that and that big energy going to a home game that's been a minute since we've been at home against Miami.
Yeah, how crazy of a stretch is this? I talked with Shane Steichen about this on Monday. 4 out of 5 away from Lucas Oil Stadium. This is the lone home game you have within a month. So you really have to take advantage of what is a battered Dolphins team, certainly. I mean, every team's dealing with injuries. Certainly theirs very significant with what they're going through right now. So this is a prime opportunity for the Colts for the first time all year to get to a winning record. And then you go down and you've got the Texans waiting for you, of course, on the other side of this one.
The ironic thing is, a year ago, the Colts played 4 out of 5 games around this time of year at home, and they went 1-4 in that stretch, with the only win being over the Titans.
Wow.
You hope it turns around a little bit, and the Colts are able to dig out of that hole. But again, this is what we're kind of talking about. The Colts last year, they gave up 39 to the Browns and 38 to the Saints in back-to-back weeks, and it's here we go, but the Colts stuck around. They were able to hang around the playoff race. They developed an identity when you got into November and you got into December, and they came 13 yards from making the playoffs.
Right.
And
it can happen.
You just hope, too, that some of maybe this injury bug is hitting a little bit early and you're going to get guys healthy through this really critical stretch when you get into November, like, Shane has addressed. It's been a wave of them early on at significant positions, critical positions. So, this whole situation with Michael Pittman and his back, how long is that going to linger? But you really hope for Anthony Richardson in particular that his getting back this week, as all reports are currently indicating, all the information that we have from Shane Steichen, that getting him to 100% or as close as possible to 100% will allow him to sustain a stretch of finishing games, completing games, playing 4 quarters, doing so coming out relatively healthy.
I think that's a really good point, Larra, just that you don't want to get him out there if he's not as close to 100% as he can possibly be, because sustain is the perfect word. You're looking to sustain this. You're not looking to rush him back out there because you want to get back into the playoff race. You're looking to, hey, we want to build with Anthony Richardson this year. We've got 11 games left. We want him to be able to build and grow throughout those 11 games, and rushing him back could be detrimental to that.
And when the Colts brought in Joe Flacco, they did it as a backup. This man is the starter when he's healthy. And here's what I like, guys, is we did see some action last week out of him during practice, taking some number 1 reps, moving around like that. Then we saw he was the 3rd-string emergency quarterback down. So I like that he had last week. And then this week, based on him starting this game, Anthony Richardson is back. What is this Colts offense? Are we going to be looking at something depending on Jonathan Taylor as to oppose what we saw with Joe Flacco in there? Now Anthony Richardson time is here again.
Well, yeah, I mean, these are 2 very different styles of quarterbacks, and that's something that, we've talked with a lot of the Colts receivers about, is just, a little bit of the benefit of having both of those guys that you're working with and developing with each of them. And yeah, I mean, it's a different layer of the playbook that you're opening up when you have Anthony out there with some of the things you can do, whether Jonathan Taylor is there or not. Certainly, ideally, you would like to have both of those threats, in the run game, and having a defense that has to account for both of them. But even with Anthony and the way that these receivers have been playing of late, and, I thought that Tyler Goodson had a really strong game. You'd like to see him catching a little bit of momentum at this point in this season. Trey Sermon a little banged up, so we'll see where he is coming out of the player day off today. But yeah, I mean, this is certainly going to be, I think, a situation in which the Dolphins are going to be a lot less comfortable having to game plan and scheme for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I mean, with Richardson coming back, the thing that I'm looking for is kind of rust, where this is sort of going into our, like, we have a little take shop segment
it's
later
coming
on
up.
here.
You don't want to miss the take shop, I promise.
I have this is one I didn't put on the rundown because I'm not there yet. But I was listening to I think it was the Athletic Football Show. It's either them or the Football 301 show that Nate Tice does. But one of those real smart people podcasts was talking about Kirk Cousins and how when you come off a season-ending injury, it takes a little while to work off the rust and to get back into the flow of it. And this is Kirk Cousins. He's played in the league for a decade. He's a very, very good quarterback. And it was sort of like once he worked through those first couple of games, bam, there's 500 yards against the Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. And he looked comfortable, and they were able to move the ball the way that they wanted to. Anthony Richardson obviously does not have the experience and the cachet of Kirk Cousins. But I think there might be something to some of the misses Anthony Richardson had in the first 4 weeks of the season being due to rust and not due to a fatal flaw in him as a quarterback. Mm-hmm. We'll see as the season goes on if that's true or not. But like the 6 interceptions, Anthony Richardson only threw 1 pick in his rookie year. Some of those misses where he's sailing it over Josh Downs on a quick out route, like he wasn't doing that last year. So I kind of want to say, hey, are we going to chalk it up to rust? Or is it an actual problem with Anthony Richardson? I think we're going to find out if he can sustain a stretch now coming back of 4, 5, 6 games. But even in this game against Miami, my point being, Larra, there might be a little bit of rust now that he's missed 2.5 games.
Well, Larra, let me ask. We know who this cat is, and running is a big part of his offense and this Colts offense. So you're not going to, in my opinion, you're not going to put Anthony Richardson out there who's one-dimensional when he can be two-dimensional with his legs. So that's 100% health, and he will be running the ball. Do you agree?
I do. I think so. I think you will be very intentional in the circumstances in which you run him, and you're going to be selective in the opportunities that you have. But I don't expect him to be limited. I think when you have a thoroughbred like that, you're not going to pull back on the reins whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean that it kind of goes into Shane Steichen was asked on Monday why could Michael Pittman Jr. play through his injury, but Anthony Richardson could not. And Shane's answer was, well, Anthony touches the ball on every play, and this and that, but I think that absolutely plays into it. Like, if you're going to put Anthony Richardson out there and you feel like you cannot run him, then don't put him out there. Wait for him to be able to run the football because that is one of his superpowers. And I think it's going to be something where, look, every time he takes off and runs, fans might get a little bit nervous, but he has to do that. He has to. And you can't be scared of him doing that, and you have to let him be the weapon that he is based on his skill set.
Also, I mean, no injury is the same, no player is the same, but when you look at, Derek Carr is dealing with an oblique injury, and he's out for multiple weeks.
Right.
The Saints have already said that. Now, we don't know the severity of his versus Anthony's, but when you're talking about a quarterback and you're talking about that, and it has a lot to do with the fact of that's on the plant side, and what he's able to do. So there are some things to take into consideration. Also, like Michael Pittman injuries, he's just in a totally different stratosphere. Like there's he's I mean, you have Joe Flacco saying that Pitt is one of the toughest guys he's ever played with. This is Joe Flacco. You look at the caliber of people he has shared a locker room with, and Michael Pittman is at the top of that list. So I think that is a little unfair of a comparison when you take anyone compared to Michael Pittman. I think if you want to get a closer level of just getting an understanding, you have to look at someone in the same position who's dealing with something in the same vicinity of the body.
Yeah, I mean, like a back injury too. I sleep funny, and it's like I can't do anything for a week. And here's Pitt coming out and just catching a game-winning touchdown and a game-sealing reception.
Incredible. I'll tell you what.
And in a tussle in the end zone.
Yeah, with L'Jarius Sneed, who's one of the most physical cornerbacks in the NFL.
Oh, man. He's getting a back slap. That's a Pittman I want to throw.
I wouldn't slap him on the back.
Right.
Let's go maybe.
Shoulder. Not on the back.
Maybe, yeah.
He gets
Don't test it.
You're right. I'll stay off the back. But he gets one.
Helmet tap there.
Before we go on and open up this take shop, you're going to love it. Can we give a little love to Rigoberto?
Should.
Wow. I mean, is he the best in the NFL at doing what he does? And I'm talking about
has been so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's that punt. That's like to be able to hit that with that precision is ridiculous. When you think about the ball's going off your foot 57 yards down the field, and to be able to do that, that's incredible.
Shane Steichen told me that he actually played that back in the team meeting on Monday in slow motion to just allow everybody to have a level of appreciation and see exactly what Rigo did in that situation. Because you think about it, and in the moment, everyone who's playing on special teams is focused on maybe their assignment and what they're doing. So you don't often get to totally see. Obviously, the result of it, but Shane wanted to be sure that he put a spotlight and put the focus on exactly what that special teams unit was able to do. I mean, that was the game-sealing play. Like, Pitt had the go-ahead touchdown. The punt was the game sealer.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing anything from the 3-yard line with no timeouts and 12 seconds left. And even if that ball goes out of the end zone and you're on the 20, it's very low odds, but it's not as low as it was at the 3. You're thinking you have a little bit more space to operate in. You can get a throwback. Some crazy can happen. When you're starting at the 3, you're not getting a 97-yard Mickey Mouse play to win the game.
Two quickly things too on special teams. Ashton Dulin, Josh Downs, both of those guys, the play of those guys in Tennessee on special teams was significant. Dulin, 2 special teams stops, title single game career high in special teams tackles, and then Downs, 4 punt returns for a single game career high of 67
Loved it.
yards.
Yeah, well, and those 67 yards are critical.
Jeez.
In a game where you gain 260-something total yards, Downs got you first down every time he touched the ball in a punt return. That was huge.
Well said. What a great game. Couple more attaboys. Back slaps. Dalton Tucker, Tanner Bortolini sliding in, 0 sacks, giving up for the Colts offensive line.
It's 2 rookies there on the interior. And to Dalton Tucker as well. Like, you're up front with a bunch of guys who have been premium draft picks, for the most part, like up there. These are guys who you have spent draft capital in when you think about, obviously Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, the guys who you're up front with. So for Dalton Tucker, a guy undrafted rookie, he told some of our guys internally, like his only college scholarship offers were Marshall and Eastern Kentucky. So to capitalize on the opportunity that he had at hand, unbelievable.
I mean, and he's going up against like Jeffrey Simmons in there. The pretty tall task. Tanner Bortolini, also in his rookie debut, he went against Cam Hayward. Like, these guys are getting tested, and they're holding up. And again, no sacks. against a Titans front that was going to go after Dalton Tucker, which they did. There were some stunts. There were some things they did with Jeffrey Simmons to try to get him a little uncomfortable, and he held up, and Joe Flacco did a good job stepping up and avoiding pressure. And
hey, it's
it was
an attaboy for
game.
Tony Sperano Jr. and Chris Watt, the offensive line coaches, for the job that they've done.
Once again, I checked it again today. The Colts offensive line still has the highest Pro Football Focus grade of any O-line in the NFL.
Nice.
And they're doing it starting rookies in 3 consecutive games. So that's pretty good.
Right. That's really good. Joe Flacco, he's getting a back slap as well. I think I can't touch Michael Pittman on the back, but everybody else I'll give a back slap to right there. I want to open up this bake shop. Check that. I want to open up this take shop, rather. It's still a sweet place. You're going to love this. Larra, I'm going to start with you. In this take shop, we're going to dissect some takes. These are hot about the 2024 Colts, and if we believe them, can they improve them, or do you think it's too early to dispense them? That's pretty good description of what's going on here. You ready?
Right. Yeah.
These aren't fully formed. They're still maybe in the
That's
oven.
why you're here. You're here to you're putting cherries on top. When you
No,
take them out of the oven.
we're sticking the toothpick in and seeing is it done yet or is it not?
All right, here we go. Take number 1. If the Colts make the playoffs, remember, if it ended today, they are a playoff team. But after 17 games, if the Colts make the playoffs, is it strictly because of Anthony Richardson took them there from this point on? Larra.
I don't think it's going to be strictly like it's never a one person, one player type of situation. But I do think this team goes as far as Anthony Richardson goes. That's how I would phrase it. Like, yes, like that's why you invest a fourth overall pick in a quarterback with a guy who has the level of athleticism and the upside that he does. Like, what was the conversation surrounding Anthony coming in with how, raw he was, with how few college games that he'd started, all of that? Like, you're drafting him for who he is going to become more so than who he is. This is the time where, yes, you want Anthony Richardson to become one of the most threatening quarterbacks, the most difficult quarterbacks to cover in the NFL, the most athletic, dynamic players that you have on the field. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's wise. That's what you want.
Yeah.
That's what you expect out of any quarterback, I think.
To get there, he's got to get the ball.
Right. And he doesn't have to get there to that point that Larry's describing. He doesn't have to get there this year.
Okay.
But if he starts going in that direction, yeah, I think this could be a playoff team. Because I think we have to wrap our heads around this is going to be unlike any season we've seen before if it goes the way that it could. You could see Anthony Richardson complete 55% of his passes, but if he hits those explosives, if he hits 3 to 4 to 5 40-yard gains in a game, the Colts are going to win because of that. And if he misses some other throws as he's kind of working through some stuff, but again, he hits those explosives, Colts are going to win, and they're going to be a playoff team because of that. That's kind of why I put it on there.
Some of those explosives are with his legs. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
I absolutely
Agree.
have to. Agree. Take number 2, JJ. I'm staying right there with you. Josh Downs, who had a great game, 7 catches, obviously the touchdown, and like you said, what he did in special teams. Josh Downs this season, when it's all said and done, he will lead the Colts in receptions this year. He has 27 right now. Michael Pittman has 25. And Alec Pierce, who didn't have any receptions against the the Titans, but what a great pass interference penalty, which I loved. If you guys saw that, he wasn't even done sliding, and he was calling for it. But does Josh Downs, does he, the reception leader, when this thing is all said and done, the way that you see it right now, and obviously health playing a big part of that?
So I put this one on here because I wish I had been more forceful saying this during training camp.
Okay.
Before he got hurt in training camp, I think I might have told you, Larra, I might have just pulled someone aside on the sidelines and been like, I think Downs is leading this team in receptions. And then he got hurt, and I was sort of like, I guess I got to back off this. But I think now the way that he's going, he's uncoverable in the slot. He's going to find space. And if you want to start allocating more bodies to him, okay, great. Hey, guess who's running 40 yards to the post? Alec Pierce. So he provides this sort of really tough choice for opposing defenses of, hey, if we need to start clamping down on Josh Downs, then we're exposed on the outside. And they got Alec Pierce. That's a problem, especially if you have Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco throwing him in the football. So I think what Downs is able to do on third down, especially, is why I think he's going to lead this team in receptions. He's got 8 catches on third down already that have resulted in a first down.
Nice.
That's tied for the fourth highest total in the NFL, and he missed 2 games. So he's tracking toward, I think, absolutely leading this team in receptions.
That's a Pro Bowl type of year. You know what I mean? That's if he continues.
Well,
available.
he's got to get more explosives to be in that Pro Bowl discussion. That's how you get it as a receiver, and you got to beat out some Nico Collins and Devontae Adams and these guys. But for him to be able to do that, if he makes the Pro Bowl or not, we're going to know here in Indy how good of a player he is.
Well, the frequency is Josh Downs with the number of receptions, but you have Alec Pierce with the yardage per reception. I mean, Alec is averaging 28.3 yards per catch right
Still
now.
After a no-catch game last week?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, that's per reception.
Per reception,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
It should technically go up because that 33-yard PI should also count toward his total.
Oh, yeah.
And also, if Joe Flacco doesn't miss him on that 3rd and 7 throw in the fourth quarter, that's a 60-yard touchdown.
That's true.
AP's release on that and the way that he just worked into space behind Snead
Joe
was
knew it, too.
awesome. And Joe knew it. Joe knew
Yeah.
it.
Joe knew it. You're right. Good
That's
pull.
the thing with Alec is it's like maybe the targets are fewer, but it's the yardage you're getting per target is immense, whereas the frequency of Josh Downs catches to this point have been higher. So it's an awesome situation for an offense to be in.
Who leads this team in receiving yards?
Right now.
At the end of it, Alec.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you look at it, that's what's so great about having, think about it. Pitt's your 50-50 guy, right? The guy who's going to win those contested catches type of situations. Certainly, all of those guys have that element, but you have all of those guys who have kind of these defined skill sets and how they own different situations within your offense to some degree.
I think it works so great.
Yeah.
Because Downs can be your short and intermediate guy. Pitt can be your intermediate short guy in terms of their strengths, right? So Downs, if you need 8 yards, he's getting you 8 yards. Pitt, if you need 12 yards, he's getting you 12 yards. Alec, if he needs you 20 yards, he's getting you 20 yards. Those guys work all so well and complement to each other. This is as good a wide receiver room as I think the Colts have had in a really long time.
And it's a great spot where defenses have to hedge your bets, right? All of those, to account for each of those.
And it also goes into the quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Where previously, I think we're learning that Alec is a really good downfield receiver. The Colts just didn't have anyone to get him the ball last couple of years.
Right,
last 2 years.
Right.
And Michael Pittman Jr. he's kind of that slasher on those intermediate routes. You could get him the ball in those situations. You still can get him the ball in those spots, but now you have a quarterback who can push it deep, and that opens so much more up for the rest of the offense.
Pitt signs an extension, shows that he's the number one receiver here. He basically, guys, and that word basically is key, in the last couple of years is a 9-10 reception a game, 100 yards a game type of a player. With Josh Downs being in the role that we just talked about and the importance of him to a quarterback and getting a lot of receptions, A.D. Mitchell, who is a high draft choice that's going to come around sometimes, stuff like this. Does that Pittman stat line go down a little bit in 2024, do you think, where, right around 8-9 catches a game, 100 yards, because of the spreading of the offense?
I think it actually has more to do with Richardson and what he's able to do. We're talking about quarterbacks who can get you the ball.
Yeah.
So I looked it up. Anthony Richardson, when he's throwing in and out routes, so kind of your typical intermediate, your digs, your sail.
How many yards?
He's averaging 12.7 yards per reception when he throws it. But he's only completing 42.9% of his passes on those. That's about 25 percentage points below the league average of 67.2%. Anthony gets that completion percentage up, Pittman's going to get more yards. Because that's, you think about that catch against Pittsburgh that opened the game. That's one of those throws where it's it wasn't technically one of those routes, but that's one of those perfect Pittman throws where he just works in between a corner and a safety into space and you just rip him the ball. He's really good at that. I think that's on Richardson to maybe get him the ball a little more there.
Hey, let's stay with A.D. Mitchell. It's imminent. This young man is going to have a breakout game or 2 or 3 before this season is over. Second rounder, we saw what he did in college. All he does is catch touchdown passes in national championship games. Is he in a position with this wide receiver group, a very, very skilled wide receiver group, is he going to have one of those games where we see A.D. Mitchell 4, 5, 10 catches, 150 yards type of thing? Does it happen?
I think you could look at a 4-catch game pushing 100 yards, and I think it's coming soon. Did you see what he did to L'Jarius Sneed on that whip route?
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. You know what it reminded me of? This is kind of bad. Brings up some bad memories. what Justin Jefferson did to Stephon Gilmore in that 2022 Colts-Vikings game.
And now those guys are teammates.
They sure are teammates. Jefferson, I mean, it was like just this unbelievable, the way that he's able to like sink his hips and hit that route. That's what A.D. Mitchell did. And I'm not comparing A.D. Mitchell to Justin Jefferson in any other way right now, other than that he can move like the best receivers in the NFL. He's got to figure out how to be on time with stuff and all that. He said he had this great line in the locker room last week that he's putting some hot sauce on some things when sometimes he just needs salt.
Yeah.
I think he's going to figure it out. He's got the trust of his quarterbacks. Shane Steichen loves the guy. Jim Bob Cooter likes the guy. Reggie Wayne had a pretty passionate defense of him last week.
Yeah.
It's going to happen at some point where it's like, oh my gosh, A.D. Mitchell just toasted some cornerback and got a 40-yard gain, and then he gets rolling a little bit, and we're coming out of a game being like, there's the breakout.
You're right.
It's coming.
And Larra, we've seen this over the years of you guys covering the NFL. It takes one, and all of a sudden, these players get rolling with statistics and game performances that, hey, we just needed one out of them. I'm expecting
especially at that position, right? Like, that's not uncommon to see young receivers take some time to have those type of games. And who better to mentor him through this than Reggie Wayne?
Right.
I mean, think about early in Reggie's career. He had his own struggles. I think it's really easy for people to forget. And with Reggie, he talked so much about watching Alec Pierce develop and, just telling him to stay patient, do the little things, and the guidance with which he imparted upon Alec and how well that is now going to serve. And I'm sure it was that way with Josh Downs last year at certain points too, because here you've had, kind of this steady stream of new receivers, young receivers, rookies coming in. And so I just think that Reggie will take exactly kind of that same, tutelage that he's imparted upon his other guys with AD in terms of creating that opportunity. Yeah, you're right. He said he just needs to keep things a little bit more simple, right? He felt like a little bit like a freshman year all over again, not an uncommon situation. He's humble. He goes about things the right way. He works incredibly hard. So I think you're going to see things start to click for him here as we get toward the middle part of the season.
Let's stick with receivers here. And I call Mo Alley-Cox a receiver because he's a tight end and he receives the football. So, guys, is he one of the most important players of this offense? I love this question and this take because we've seen what he's done the last couple of weeks. But not only that, he's been doing it for a long time, wearing these colors. And I'll tell you what, Mo Alley-Cox, again, a big play guy and a big part of this offense.
I feel so sorry for anyone who's trying to stop Mo Alley-Cox.
Oh, Quandre Diggs. oh,
no.
buddy.
Oh,
man. It's like running into a traffic pole.
Yeah. What is it? Immovable force meets, what's the phrase? Yeah, I'm totally botching this, but yes, it is unfair when a DB tries to match up and stop Mo. Yards after catch with that guy, come on.
So here's why I put this on here. Not just because I'm I'm becoming a Mo Alley-Cox truther. But the inline tight end is kind of having a bit of a renaissance in the NFL over the last couple of years. The guy can stick his hand in the dirt, get his nose in there on running plays, hit an explosive in the passing game now and then, because as defenses are putting these too high shells over teams and daring teams to run the ball, the kind of split out tight end is, if you have a great one, that's great. That's fine. Travis Kelce's awesome. We know that. But if you have that inline tight end who can catch and block in the run game when teams are daring you to run the football instead of throwing it deep, that matters. And the Colts have a good Y tight end in Mo Alley-Cox. He's just straight up good. You might say, well, he has 4 catches or whatever. Go watch the tape of Mo Alley-Cox and tell me that guy's not a good football player.
Let me ask you both this. Okay, let me ask you both this. I'm going to play a devil's advocate here. Okay, Mo Alley, all right. Weeks 1 and 2 to 29 plus. His snap count went from 18 in weeks 1 and 2 to 29 plus. Is this strictly a Joe Flacco? The offense changes a little bit when Flacco's in there. It changes back to something else when Anthony Richardson.
This is, I think, the offense evolving, and and you're starting to realize how defenses are playing you. And you know what? We need that guy with his hand in the dirt. We need that guy who's attached to the line. Mo Alley-Cox this year, I looked this up, when he's lined up in a three-point stance, so in line, hand in the dirt, he has the 5th best Pro Football Focus run block grade in those situations among tight ends. That's good. Take Pro Football Focus grades for what you will. I kind of use them as just like a baseline of like, hey, is this matching kind of what I'm seeing? I don't know if this is maybe matching what the league is seeing, but only Brock Bowers has a higher PFF offensive grade among tight ends than Mo Alley Cox this year.
Okay. And he's in a big part of that Vegas offense.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't leave the field type of thing. So
yeah.
good for Mo Alley Cox. Wow.
I also put it on here because when we get off this podcast, I'm calling up Jack Doyle to talk about Mo.
Oh, really?
For a story on Colts.com tomorrow.
So,
yeah.
Great. Mo Alley getting some love. All right. Defensively speaking, I'm going to start with you, Larra. We've had some issues. We've had some clock control. You know what I mean? Some 40 to 20 as far as time of possessions go early in the year and what like that. Injuries.
It's gotten better. It's gotten a lot better.
It has gotten better. DeForest Buckner, knock on something. If he comes back this week, I don't know if he comes back next week. With the addition of DeForest back to this defense, guys, does that one man settle down, even obviously the front side, but the backside behind him with EJ and Zaire, and of course affecting the play that will be the defense? I mean, is he that guy this place is going to be a little bit differently when Defoe is back 100%?
Oh, yeah. I mean, every team that goes up against this Colts defense when 99 is in the middle, for the most part, he's taking on double teams in different situations because the amount of respect that people have for DeForest Buckner, how difficult he is to face up front. And when you get Defoe and Grove right there in the center of that opens up opportunities for everybody else. Yes. I mean, the defensive line has done a good job, like without him, with the guys who have stepped in there in tough circumstances. But I mean, yeah, there's a reason he is, Pro Bowler, All-Pro, DeForest Buckner, one of the longest tenured guys on this team, one of the captains. I mean, I don't know if there are enough accolades to describe exactly what DeForest means to this team. But yeah, like immediately you're getting better when he gets in there. Yeah,
here's where I think you're going to see the big difference, and it's just the Colts miss Buck and Grove on the interior on run plays so much. Because I'm watching this game against Tennessee, and how many times, Larra, did it feel like Grover Stewart's immediately in the backfield?
Yeah.
Like he fires off the snap, he's in the backfield, and then the run play goes the other way. So Tony Pollard had a run. It was in the first quarter inside the red zone where the Titans double team the other D tackle. They have their right guard, quote unquote, block Grover Stewart. I don't know what it was designed to do, but they then have Calvin Ridley come over and chip Grover Stewart.
Good luck.
But they run the ball away from him. Teams are just saying, we'll let Grove do what he wants to do. We're just going to run it the other direction. When you have DeForest Buckner in there, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Even if you double Buck, you can't do that. And that's what teams are kind of doing to the Colts right now.
Be realistic. I know it's a crystal ball, but a guess. Give us a guess on the return of DeForest Buckner to this defense.
I think by week 8. I mean,
Houston.
You'd love to have him back this week. You would. This is the first week he's eligible to come off injured reserve. But if you can, and look, Miami's got a heck of a rushing offense. They're going to be a challenge with the speed they have and the way they design some things. But if you get him back for that week 8 game at Houston, and that's a game that if you want to contend in the division, you can't lose that game.
No, you got to.
You lose that game to Houston, you're thinking wild card probably the rest of the way.
That's right.
But if you get him back for that game, that's what you're thinking.
He's still walking around, has a little bit of a brace on that ankle. We saw him on the sidelines in Nashville and all of that. So he's been posting some of the work that he's been doing. One thing, though, to go back, we talked about Anthony Richardson maybe, having some rust to kind of work back in. Do you anticipate, like with Defoe, is this a put him in there and he's right back where he left off, or does it take him some time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think because he's such a veteran and it is only a 4 or 5 game absence, I think the rust may be a little bit less.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I kind of put Buck in a different stratosphere. He's almost in that like Pittman stratosphere of like, if he's out there, I expect him to go make plays regardless of what he's dealing with, what his rust level is, because he takes such good care of his body. He's so prepared. He's such a pro and a veteran at it that I don't like, if we're talking about him missing like an entire season and then coming back, maybe, but for this stretch, I think if he's out there, you're going to see impact level DeForest Buckner.
And
again.
Even when he has had, even when he's been, nursing that ankle, like he's been hitting the weight room. He's been doing absolutely everything to maintain exactly what he needs to stay into game shape. I mean, first person in the building, for weightlifting sessions, doing all of those things. And that is something, that's a routine, right, that is constructed over so much time. You know exactly what you need to do. You think about all of the things that he's battled through and not miss time. So he knows what he has to do in terms of some maintenance to come back in and immediately be back at that level that he expects to be.
Guys, before we cut out here, stats aside, you look at an eye test, a smell test, and you never want to have a team come into your building with a backup quarterback and take care of business. And that's what we're talking about this week with the Miami Dolphins. Just give me your one shot on them really quick, because that's a 1 o'clock kickoff down at Lucas Oil Stadium. And as we said, Colts are back on the road for their next 2 right after that.
Yeah, you want to talk about banged up. I mean, Miami is banged up. You got, obviously, Tua is out. It was good to hear Mike McDaniel say he could, come back and play this year, but he will not be eligible to play against the Colts this week. Jalen Phillips is out. They've got a lot of injuries on that defense. They still have Jalen Ramsey. He's a really good player. But, they've lost some dudes. Christian Wilkins was there the last couple of years. He's now in Vegas. So this is a team that the Colts should win this game.
You got to take care of business.
And look, I know you're real scared of Waddle and you're scared of Hill.
Sure.
Those are...
Got to get the ball to him, though.
You got to get the ball to him, and you got to run the football, too.
How much have you seen from Jalen Jones, Sam Womack? Just really good play out of both of those guys, especially coming out of last week. Every week, Jalen Jones has started to level up to the assignments, the tough task that he has had. Zaire Franklin was sure to shout out Jalen Jones after that win at Tennessee. So, a couple of guys who I think that, you limited, and they weren't trying to push the ball downfield a ton, but still, Will Levis didn't go over 95 yards passing. And I think that is just an indication, too, of really starting to see the secondary step up.
This is another take that I have that I didn't dispense yet. But, okay, people being like, oh, Will Levis stinks. Throw out the Colts' defensive performance. They were historically good against Will Levis. Will Levis he attempted 27 passes and didn't throw for 100 yards.
I know, that's something
I don't
else.
care if you think Will Levis is the worst quarterback in the NFL. That's an impressive performance. It's like, the old, you can only beat whoever's in front of you. And, well, if you have a team in front of you that maybe is not very good, but you beat them handily, which the Colts did in terms of the passing game on defense, that's impressive still. I'm going to say that's a good game. I think, Larra, to your point, leveling up to the challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, now you got to level up to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah,
this is going to be a challenge for these guys, regardless of who's throwing the ball to them. You got to level up to it, but so far they have leveled up to those challenges.
And here's how you help. Getting pressure up front.
Yeah,
that's how you help. That's what you got to do. That's it. You've got to dial it up with the pressure up front. See that force coming from everybody. That's exactly what you got to do.
Colts picked off Will Levis because Dio Odengbo got really good pressure on him.
And we got to continue that because that place is going to be rocking at 1 o'clock. Coming off a victory, Colts and the Dolphins will kick it off. Larra Overton, JJ Stankevitz. Follow them on Colts.com. They got the latest and greatest on this football team and also on social media at Twitter X, at Larra Overton, at JJ Stankevitz. Let's close tonight because halftime is right around the corner against the Miami Dolphins. And JJ, I know you haven't been in Indianapolis for a long time, but I know you're a football fan. Dallas Clark will be put in the Ring of Honor at halftime of this game, and I think it's so fitting. I was there his first day out of Iowa. I saw him in his Dockers and his brother's. He borrowed his brother's collared shirt and an old pair of Dockers that were about a size 44 waist, and watching this, what looked like a farm boy come in here and then develop into what he was. I just am looking so forward to that and seeing one of the greats to wear a horseshoe getting up in the Ring of Honor forever.
We had a chance to talk to Reggie Wayne about Dallas because Reggie considers Dallas like his favorite teammate. Like those two were a tandem. Like they had a very special, still have a very special, relationship, but Reggie was sharing some stories and just talked about like anytime you had a guy who does not wear gloves, like that's different, right? He was a different type of player. And think about the fact too, this is something that Matt Wilkening and I were talking about is like that offense with Marvin and Reggie and all the guys he plays, the way that Dallas was able to solidify himself as a weapon within that offense alongside those guys, everything that he was able to do, so incredible. Certainly a fan favorite. It's going to be great to see him go, rightfully so, where he deserves, up in the Ring of Honor. And then, hey, do you know who
Oh,
the last 3 Dallas Clark touchdowns came from
Joe Flacco.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. And Dallas wore 87 when he played in Baltimore because of Reggie.
How about that? I
had a chance to talk with a couple of guys.
Tell us who you had a chance to talk with.
Tony Dungy, Jeff Saturday, and Tarek Glenn so far. I'm supposed to be getting a call from someone else.
And who's
this
that
week.
Someone else?
You'll see on Colts.com.
Okay,
if
that's
I
a
get
big
it. I don't
surprise.
wanna-
Good tease right there.
But yeah, just some great memories, great stories from those guys about Dallas Clark. Can I drop a little bit of late breaking news into this
Go
podcast?
ahead, please.
Devontae to the Jets.
Yep. Devontae to the Jets. That's it. Come on.
This is.
I mean, yeah,
course,
it's like,
right,
oh yeah, all right. Saw that one coming.
Shocker, Aaron Rodgers gets his way. That's a conversation for another time. But do you know the great story? This has been told a lot, but when Dallas Clark was drafted, they're like, what number do you want? And he was like, I'd like to have 88. And they're like, that number has been taken. Somebody actually already has that number. And he goes, I'll do 44. Because obviously that was Marvin Harrison's number.
Oh, I remember those practices, man. Tom Moore, last thing I'll say, Tom Moore, offensive coordinator for the Colts for a lot of years. Oh, he used to kill this young man at practice his first 2 years. Tom's an Iowa guy, Dallas is, and he was so hard on him, Tom Moore, just barking and barking and barking. And he talked to him years after, and we know why. He's like, I've never seen anybody with his skill set in an offense that I've run like this, so I'm going to coach that kid hard. Year 3, they were best of friends, but the first 2 years, cracking the whip.
Tony?
We're going to see a lot of a lot of his teammates, Coach Dungy and Peyton Mannings of the world, et cetera, et cetera. There will be a VIP list that'll be on the halftime field putting Dallas Clark in the Ring of Honor. I'm sorry.
Tony Dungy told me just that as he's sitting at Palomino's after the Colts clinched the AFC.
God, love Palomino. Man, it was a great spot.
Yeah.
He's sitting there at 1 o'clock in the morning with his family after the Colts clinched the AFC in the 06 playoffs. And he's sitting there and his mind starts going to, if we had Dallas in 2003, I would have been sitting at Palomino's at 1 o'clock in the morning. We would have made the Super Bowl that year too.
Wow.
Also, there's an awesome photo that I'll send to Ava, who's going to edit this together, that Reggie shared with me, one of his favorites with Dallas Clark from when they won the AFC Championship. So I'll be sure to send it because it says everything kind of about their friendship and their relationship and just how much he means to his teammates. That's something that Reggie reiterated, is he's in the Ring of Honor, certainly like there because of the player that he was, but also because of the teammate that he was. JJ, I'm sure that's a similar theme to what you've heard for your article.
I finished up talking to Jeff, and at the end of it, I was like, "This is the easiest assignment I've had all year. Call up former teammates of Dallas Clark and just say something nice about Dallas Clark," and they just go. Because I mean, one of the most beloved guys to come through this building in the history of this franchise.
And rightfully so, put in the Ring of Honor. I'll tell you what, this is going to be such a great afternoon of football. Obviously, halftime with Dallas Clark, but the Colts are going to put together another win. It's going to be 2 in a row. It's against Miami. All this is happening here. Anthony Richardson back on the field. I'm fired up, guys. We're closing it now. Anything on the way out before we give a little goodbye to the folks?
It is also the Kicking the Stigma game on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Right.
So be sure to follow along for all of those updates. We're coming off of another successful Beyond the Sidelines in which over $1 million has been raised for Kicking the Stigma and all of the incredible work that is being done mostly across Indiana, but also across the country with different mental health organizations. So be sure to follow along.
You were a big part of that.
So
Thank you,
You
Larra.
were a huge part of that.
Larra Overton helping the
You were outstanding.
community.
You were driving up those bids.
You guys are both great.
Well done.
Yeah, so that's something to look forward to. Awesome
Yeah.
to see that become an annual
Yes.
game now within
it's
the
so
schedule.
important to just keep that conversation going, and
And it will.
Kudos to everyone, the Irsay family, for continuing that and making it a major part of who the Colts are as an organization.
All right, well, it's happening 1 o'clock on Sunday. Colts coming off a win down in Nashville. Larra Overton, JJ Stankevitz, at Larra Overton, at JJ Stankevitz on Twitter X. Folks, I can't wait. This is the role that we're starting for. Anthony is going to be healthy, leading this team to victory. If you want more information, again, follow these two on social media as well as Colts, and Colts.com has the latest. Guys, I appreciate you sitting down with me, talking a little bit football. Let's do it again. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right.
See you next week.
Have fun. We'll see you later.